Hey, what's up, you guys? WWE fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to be doing another top 10 list. And today's top 10 list will be a top 10 list I've been waiting to do for a long time, but guess what? I'm going to finally do it, and that is my top 10 favorite action movies of all time. Now, my favorite genre of film is action. Action films are just simply the best. They are so awesome to watch and just so fun to watch, honestly. And I just love them. They've always been my favorite genre of film. I'm so excited to talk about my 10 favorite action films. So before we get into my list, I have a few honorable mentions. Now, I usually don't do honorable mentions for my lists, but for this case, I have to, because there's just way too many action films that I have to mention. So, my honorable mentions are first, Predator, Point Break, The Bourne Identity, Rambo 4, Fast 5, Speed, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Those are my honorable mentions for my top 10 favorite action films. So, let's get right into the list. And at number 10, this top 10 list, you can't do a top 10 favorite action films without mentioning a James Bond movie, and that's exactly what it is. Coming at number 10 is Skyfall. Now, Skyfall, I know a lot of people's favorite James Bond movie is Casino Royale, and I can understand, honestly. Casino Royale is a great action film as well, but however, Skyfall just is simply incredible. It is such a great action movie, and this has the best action ever in a James Bond film, because just the way Sam Mendes does the action in this movie is just phenomenal, and definitely has some fantastic action. I love the action with Skyfall, just had some fantastic action, and of course, Daniel Craig as James Bond is incredible, and Javier Bardem as the villain, one of the best James Bond villain of all time. And I also like that this James Bond movie went into a much, dark approach, because a lot of the older James Bond movies were very campy and over the top. Casino Royale really started the dark, gritty James Bond, and then Quantum of Solace was losing that a little bit, and Skyfall, I think, really brought it back, and it was just incredible. I love Skyfall. That's why it comes at number 10. Number 9, what happens when you take two unlikely people and make them into partners in a buddy cop movie, and also have it written by Shane Black? You get my number 9 choice, and that is Lethal Weapon. What else do I have to say about Lethal Weapon that hasn't been said already? It is such an awesome film, and it's just such a great buddy cop action movie. It really is. And really what makes this movie is the dynamic between Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. That's really what makes this movie. And if their chemistry didn't work with each other, this movie could have really failed on every possible level, but it does. I just love it, and the action is very well filmed, in my opinion. I think the action is fantastic with the movie, and just had some phenomenal action. Richard Donner did an absolutely incredible job directing this film and directing the action with the movie. Like I said, the writing by Shane Black is absolutely incredible, and he just does such a great job writing this movie. And the fact that this takes place on Christmas is incredible. This is not the only action film that takes place on Christmas that is on my list. We'll get into what the other one is afterwards, but Lethal Weapon is an absolutely incredible action film. Definitely an awesome buddy cop action movie. So coming in at number 8 is what happens when this franchise first started out as a horror franchise. The first installment was a suspenseful horror film. But then when a certain other director came in and was like, you know what, I'm going to change this into an action franchise. And not only is this sequel way better than the original, making it an action franchise, honestly, it worked. And as my number 8 is Aliens. Aliens. Absolutely phenomenal. It is such, like I'm going to say about a lot of these films, such an incredible action movie. It really is, because the way James Cameron handles the action with this film is absolutely incredible. Not the only James Cameron film to make it on my list. The other one we'll get into afterwards. But James Cameron does an absolutely phenomenal job directing the action. Sigourney Weaver was absolutely incredible as Ellen Ripley. She was great in the first movie, but really she shows her true colors in this second film. And she was just fantastic. And and also it was a really suspenseful action film as well, because of course with the xenomorphs, they're practically indestructible, because even if you kill them, you get their blood is acid, so that acid gets onto you, you're dead. Your face will be melted off. So they're pretty much indestructible if you think about it. And it's just amazing. Of course, the last action scene you see in this film, which I won't spoil, is absolutely incredible. This is just an absolutely incredible action film, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Now, coming in at number 7, hope people don't kill me for this, but okay, here we go. What happens when a man on Christmas is stuck in the Nagatomi Plaza when a terrorist group decides to attack it that night, and it's up to one man to stop all those terrorists and also be barefooted? Coming in at number 7 is Die Hard. Now let me explain myself why it's so low. Listen, I've only seen Die Hard once, and that was last year. Maybe if I watch it a couple more times, maybe it'll be higher on my list, but for now, it's on number 7. Just be happy it's on the list. Die Hard. What else do I have to say about Die Hard that hasn't been said thousands upon thousands of times? It's just phenomenal. It really is, and it's just a fantastic action movie. It really is. And what's funny is the year before this movie, the director of this film made Predator, which is another great action film. And to make an action film that is even better than the last one was incredible. And of course, Bruce Willis, who I'm not really the biggest fan of, is actually great in these movies, and this is by far his best role. And John McClane, just as a character, is so likable because he's just a regular human, you know what I mean? A lot of these action films trying to make our heroes really indestructible, if you think about it. Think about, like, whenever, Stallone or Arnold, like, they're practically indestructible in their movies. John McClane's just a normal dude who wants to be with his family. That's all. The only reason why he came to New York was just to be with his family. He just happened to be there the night that these terrorists came there. So it's great, and it actually shows a hero can get hurt, and that's another thing I love about this movie. Our hero is not indestructible. He can take pain. He can take, kind of a butt whooping in ways. So it's great, and that's another thing I love about Die Hard. That's why it comes in at number 7. Fantastic. Number 6. The Raid 2. The Raid 2. This is, I forgot to do my build-up for it, but I don't know if I have to even build up this movie, because holy moly, this just is phenomenal. Like, it really is. And every single fight scene you see in this movie is just, whoa. Like, how did they do it? And you're just blown away by the fact of how they did these action scenes, honestly. And, like I said, every single fight scene you see in this film is just so well choreographed, so well, brutal as well. Like, really, these fight scenes are very brutal. This is a very violent film. This is actually one of the most violent films I've ever seen, because it's just gruesome. And it's awesome. And this movie practically, I think, has the best chase, like, car chase I've ever seen on film. Like, just for that scene alone makes this movie. And it's such a well-filmed, well-executed action movie. If you've never seen The Raid 2, I've seen The Raid 2 about 2 times now. And if you want to see The Raid 2, please don't see the terrible English dubbed version. Because when I went to go watch it again, they had this horrible English dubbed version. And I was like, I can't watch it. So I had to find somewhere else to watch it. But it's just incredible. It really is. Watch the regular original Indonesian version, because it's just fantastic. And don't let the whole subtitles thing bother you, please. It will be worth it just to see how incredible these action scenes are. So, The Raid 2, absolutely phenomenal, comes at number 6. I'm actually going to do my build-up this time for my number 5. So, at number 5 is a movie that involves a guy, he's been divorced, has a daughter. His daughter's going to Paris along with her friend. What happens is she gets taken. And now this man has to do whatever it takes to get his daughter back, because he will find you and he will kill you. My number 5 is Taken. I've seen Taken about 6 times. And it gets better and better each time viewing. Like it really does. Taken is such an awesome... It's a phenomenal action movie. I don't care what anybody says. It's a phenomenal action movie. It really is. And it really revitalized the career of Liam Neeson. Not saying like Liam Neeson was doing bad or anything. Liam Neeson just wasn't really in the public eye all that much. Because, unfortunately, his wife... Yeah, I think actually a couple months after this movie came out. But... his wife wasn't really doing all that well and everything. So, this movie really brought him back into the public eye. And this was kind of my introduction to Liam Neeson. And it's just an awesome, awesome action movie. Just the action is filmed phenomenally, honestly. You can see everything that's going on. And Liam Neeson just karate chops everybody in the throat. Like, literally, most of the kills in this movie are just him karate chopping people in the throat. And it's just incredible. I love this movie. It's such an incredible action film. Liam Neeson is the baddest dude on the planet. So, my number 5 is Taken. Number 4, what happens when a man, a cop, gets shot to death and they decide to test this new program on him and make him a robot? My number 4 is Robocop. Robocop is my personal favorite action film from the 80s. I think it's my favorite 80s action film. Yes, even more than Die Hard, honestly, because it's just so awesome. It really is. And the fact that our protagonist is a robot, like a man transformed into a robot, that could go south in many ways, because robots really don't have emotions. But he really does in some ways, because you feel bad for him, because I forgot the detective's name, Alex Murphy, there you go, because Detective Alex Murphy really did, he's trying to remember himself, and you just feel bad because he's put into a situation where, like I say, he was shot to death, and now he's being transformed into this robot, and it's just so awesome, and just so fun in many, many ways. The villains, sure, are they cartoonish, but that's what makes them so awesome, is because they're so cartoonish and so incredible. So, my number 4 is Robocop. Number 3, what happens when a T-1000 is sent back in time to find John Connor and kill him? But when John Connor in the future sends another Terminator back in time to protect, past John Connor, what do you get? You get this awesome sequel. My number 3 is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, I know what some people are wondering, actually. I prefer the first Terminator over this one. So you're like, why do you have Terminator 2 on your list? Well, Terminator 2 feels more or less of an action film than the first Terminator does. I never felt like the first Terminator was an action movie. It was more or less a sci-fi chase film. However, Terminator 2 is just a straight-up action movie. And it is phenomenal. And this is what a lot of people consider the greatest action film ever made. And I can definitely see that. This is so awesome. And this movie has one of the best chase scenes ever. Like, when John Connor's riding on the motorcycle and then the T-1000 comes crashing in with the truck. Just awesome. And it's just, moments like that are so incredible with this movie. The T-1000 is one of the greatest villains of all time. Just an absolutely intimidating villain who doesn't even really say that much, but is scary as can be, honestly. And just the movie is just so phenomenal. And Arnold gives probably the best performance in his career. I know he's acting like a robot, but honestly, in both of these movies, he's fantastic. And just the action is so phenomenally directed by James Cameron. And it's just so incredible with the film. I love Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's such a fantastic action film, in my opinion. Number 2, what happens when a woman named Furiosa has to take a bunch of other women across the Fury Road to the Green Zone? But Immortan Joe won't let that happen, basically. And they need the help of a man named Max Rockatansky. My number 2 is Mad Max Fury Road. Now, I know some people are going to be like, kind of like, really, you're playing an action film that only just came out last year as a number 2. Guys, I love this movie really, like, a lot. I've seen the movie about 5 times. And it only came out last year. I've already seen this movie 5 times. It gets better and better each time I watch it. It's just so phenomenal. The action scenes, oh my goodness. They have some of the greatest chase scenes you will ever see on film. And it's just so phenomenal. It really is. I love the action in this movie. The action was so great. It was just so great. George Miller did such a phenomenal job directing the film. How did he not win Best Director? It is still a shame to this day that he didn't win Best Director, or this movie didn't win Best Picture, because it is phenomenal. And Charlize Theron gives the best performance in her career in this film. She's absolutely phenomenal as Furiosa. She does such an incredible job in this film. You know, like I said, I keep on praising the action, but the action is so phenomenal with Fury Road. It feels so real in some ways. Like, you know, the chase scenes feel so adrenaline fueled, and it feels like you're on an adrenaline ride the entire time, and I love that. Mad Max Fury Road is such an incredible movie, and that's why it's my number 2 on my list. My number 1. Now, what is my favorite action film of all time? What happens when the world that we are living in isn't real? It's not real at all. We're living in a computer-generated world. And Morpheus believes in one man named Neo, who he believes is the one that will stop all this. My number 1 is The Matrix. This movie is phenomenal. It really is. This is such a phenomenal action movie. And, like, you know, at a time where blockbusters weren't really being blockbusters, like, the blockbusters in that time were like Batman and Robin, Godzilla from 1998. But there was one film that really revitalized the word blockbuster, and that was The Matrix. The Matrix really helped revitalize the word blockbuster, and The Matrix is so incredible. The action scenes, this movie has the greatest action scenes ever put to film. It has the greatest shootout scene, it has the greatest fight scene. It just has everything, honestly. I mean, the bank shootout scene, you can never recreate a shootout scene like that scene. That scene is just so phenomenally shot, and I just love that shootout scene and the fight scene between Agent Smith and Neo. Fantastic. It felt like I was watching an old school kung fu movie. It really did with that fight scene. And the fight scene between Neo and Morpheus. Just so many great scenes with this movie. So many phenomenal action scenes with The Matrix. You know, I love the action with the film. And I love how this movie made you think. There's not too many action films that really have, I want to say, a complex story. There are some, but not too many have really of a complex story. However, The Matrix has a very complex story of making you think, are we, like, in real life, making you think, oh, are we living in a computer-generated world? It makes you think very, very much. And this is a movie where you have to pay attention to every single thing that happens. And I just love The Matrix. It has such phenomenal action, such phenomenal acting. Keanu Reeves is absolutely incredible as Neo. It's by far his best performance. Just phenomenal directing by both of the Wachowskis. The Wachowskis, man, I give them huge props for this movie. I know some of their films haven't been great lately, but we all got to give them huge props for this movie because they created something incredible, something that will live on forever. And The Matrix is such a phenomenal film. And Hollywood, this is the one film I want Hollywood to never remake. I'd rather see a Back to the Future remake than a Matrix remake. I said it, because you can never recreate what The Matrix did. The Matrix was a revolutionizing thing to happen to cinema. It really was. So, that is why The Matrix is my favorite action film of all time. So, what did you guys think of my list, and what are your top 10 favorite action films of all time? Leave in the comment section below. I'm WWE Fan 0599, and we'll see you all later. Peace.